I grew up in a very Christian home, and our house was very balanced and healthy and good and whole. And it's not something that you typically would think that a single and unplanned pregnancy um, girl would look like. Like it was just, we had everything. It was just a really healthy, happy house. And all through high school, I went to a Christian private school, and it was very rules oriented. I remember there was one girl that got pregnant during high school, and she wasn't allowed to walk across the stage. And she was actually the salutatorian of the class. So it was just being in that environment, it's just a big no-no. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was 19, and he was my boyfriend, and we just went back and forth a lot as far as what our future looked like. But then when we got pregnant, it kind of made us stop and really look at, okay, what are we going to do now? And we were so scared about our future. And I think telling our parents was the big deal. Like, we couldn't necessarily see past having a baby, like being parents. It was more about what are our parents going to say? Like, they are going to flip out. And Ryan was in college. He was worried his dad would cut him off financially. You know, the enemy just starts whispering stuff to you, and you start believing it. You're going to be homeless on the street, and you're going to, you're going to lose everything. And so we were just totally freaked out, totally. And so Ryan did a little research, and he saw that you could go to an abortion clinic, and that there was a pill that you could take if you were less than 6 weeks along. It would just go away. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I could do that. I couldn't really make my brain think about where it would go away to. Where does the baby go? I just thought, well, it'll be a quick fix to a problem, and I'll deal with the consequences of a broken heart later, and I'll just, it'll just deal with it, and we'll move on. And that way, that sounds easier to me than telling my family and having them being disappointed in me. And so we scheduled an appointment, and they made Ryan wait out in the waiting room, and I went inside, and they did a sonogram, and they said, well, you're 6 weeks and 4 days along, and you're just a little too far along to take a pill. So here are your options. And they started telling me the different methods of an abortion, and they started talking about the vacuum method. And I just remember just being completely overwhelmed with emotion. Like, I couldn't breathe. I actually started hyperventilating in the room, and as they were telling me, and next thing I knew, I was on the floor, passed out. And I came to, and the nurses were fanning me, and they were trying to give me a drink of water, and trying to calm me down. And I think I had an angel of a nurse, because I couldn't in that moment, I think, make a decision. I was just so overwhelmed with emotions. So you have to come back another day. You're too emotionally distraught. You're not getting an abortion today. If you want to come back and reschedule for another day, you can, but today's not your day. You're not in a good place to make this kind of decision right now. And so I walked out in the waiting room, and I told my now husband, I said, we're still pregnant. And we just kind of made a decision at that point to just deal with it and just take it a day at a time and try to figure out how to move forward with where we were at. And of course, we told our parents, and they were upset and disappointed. They did not freak out as bad as we thought in our heads that they would. We did not get kicked out, and we were not homeless on the streets. And we got married, and he finished school, and we made it work. And we now have 4 kids. I'm a mom of a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, 6-year-old, and 1-year-old. And we've been married 14 years. And my son, I had a boy. And so I was 20 when I had him. And it was just a very lonely season of being pregnant. And I just remember, it's not that my friends didn't like me anymore. It was more, now that I'm looking back, I can see it was more like it's the elephant in the room. Like, they don't know if they should call and say congratulations, or should they call and say I'm sorry. So they just don't call. Walking into a church after having an unplanned pregnancy is really hard because of the shame that you carry, and you have the consequences of your sin to show for 9 months. And you just wonder what people are thinking. You automatically assume someone's judging you. It's really hard. And I remember that being a very lonely season. And so now looking back, I have used that, you know, how the scripture says that God uses everything, even the bad stuff, for good for those that love him. And he used something that I thought was such a huge mistake and such that had placed such shame and guilt on me. He used my bad into my life calling and wanting to be there for girls now that have an unplanned pregnancy and being a friend for them when they go through that season of loneliness. And now my husband, he will say to me, even now that Jess is 14, just every once in a while, he'll just stop. We'll be, you know, in the kitchen. It's crazy. And he'll stop and he'll say, thank you for being a strong one. And it's been 14 years and he still thanks me, because we can't imagine where we would be if I would have decided to do abortion. Our life would look totally different than it was now. I hear so many girls say, if I hadn't have had a baby, I would be dead. I would be in jail. I would be, you know, God knows what he's doing when he places a baby inside of your womb, whether you're only carrying it for 9 months to let someone else be a parent, or if you are called to be a parent to that baby. Like, he knows what he's doing, and it's a gift and a blessing. And out of all the girls in the whole wide world, he chose me to be Jess's mom, and I'm so blessed, even though it wasn't in what my plans and what I thought was my, you know, perfect life that I thought I was supposed to carry out. He knew way better than I did, and we're so blessed for it. And all my kids are wonderful, but Jess, he's called to something huge. He's a natural leader, and he's president of the National Junior Honor Society. He preaches to everybody that comes in contact with him, and he's amazing. He's called to greatness, and God has a destiny and purpose for his life as well. Even though I didn't plan him, God did, and he has a huge destiny for him.